Maya Thompson stood at the entrance of Westfield High School, her hands gripping the straps of her backpack a little tighter than usual. The morning sun cast long shadows across the concrete steps, and she could already hear the buzz of teenage voices echoing from inside the building. This was her fourth school in 6 years thanks to her dad's military career, but somehow this one felt different. Maybe it was the size of the place, or maybe it was the fact that she'd be staying here for her final 2 years of high school. She took a deep breath and pushed through the heavy glass doors. The hallways were packed with students rushing to their lockers, chatting with friends, and hurrying to first period. Maya pulled out her phone to check her schedule one more time. Room 204 for first period English with Mrs. Patterson. She looked up at the room numbers posted on the walls and started walking. That's when she noticed it. The conversations didn't exactly stop, but they definitely got quieter as she passed. A group of girls by the water fountain glanced her way, then quickly looked away when she made eye contact. 2 boys leaning against their lockers nudged each other and stared openly. Maya had experienced this before at other schools, but never quite this intensely. Westfield High was different from her previous schools. The hallways were filled with designer backpacks, expensive sneakers, and the latest smartphones. Even the building itself looked like something out of a movie, with its pristine white walls and modern fixtures. Maya's simple jeans and sneakers suddenly felt out of place, though she tried not to let it show. She found room 204 just as the bell rang. Mrs. Patterson, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair, looked up from her desk as Maya approached. "You must be Maya Thompson," she said with a warm smile. "Welcome to Westfield High. I have your seat right over there by the window." Maya nodded and made her way to the empty desk. She could feel 20 pairs of eyes following her movement. As she sat down, she heard whispers from the row behind her. "Where do you think she's from?" "Probably the city. Look at her hair. My mom said they're building more apartments on the east side. That's probably why we're getting all these new kids." Maya kept her eyes forward, focusing on Mrs. Patterson as she began the lesson on character development in literature. She'd learned long ago that the best way to handle whispers was to ignore them completely. Her parents had taught her that her worth wasn't determined by other people's opinions, and her karate training had reinforced the importance of inner strength and composure. After English came chemistry, then history, and with each class change, Maya noticed the same pattern. Students would stare, whisper, and then quickly look away. Some seemed curious, others seemed unwelcoming, but most just seemed unsure of what to make of her. During lunch, Maya grabbed a turkey sandwich and a bottle of water from the cafeteria line. The lunchroom was enormous, with dozens of round tables, occupied by different groups of students. She scanned the room, looking for an empty spot where she could sit quietly and eat her lunch while reviewing her afternoon schedule. Most tables were completely full, with established groups of friends who'd clearly been sitting together for years. Maya spotted a half-empty table near the windows and walked over. As she approached, the 3 students already sitting there looked up at her expectantly. "Hi, is it okay if I sit here?" Maya asked politely. The students exchanged glances. After a moment that felt much longer than it probably was, one of them nodded toward an empty chair. "Sure, I guess." Maya sat down and unwrapped her sandwich. The conversation at the table, which had been flowing freely before her arrival, became stilted and awkward. She ate quickly, not wanting to make anyone uncomfortable, and spent the rest of the lunch period walking around the school to familiarize herself with the layout. Her afternoon classes went similarly to the morning ones. In biology, she was assigned to a lab table with 3 other students who were friendly enough but clearly already knew each other well. In algebra, she noticed a few students glancing at her when the teacher praised her for correctly solving a problem on the board. In physical education, she changed clothes quickly in the locker room, avoiding eye contact with the other girls who seemed to be having animated conversations about weekend plans and upcoming parties. By the time the final bell rang, Maya was exhausted. Not from the academics, which she'd found fairly straightforward, but from the constant feeling of being watched and evaluated. She made her way to her locker to grab her books for homework. As she was organizing her backpack, she overheard a conversation from the next row of lockers. "Did you see the new girl in our chemistry class?" Yeah, she seems really smart. She knew all the answers when Mr. Rodriguez was asking about molecular structures. I heard she's from a military family. That's why she transferred here mid-semester. Really? That's actually pretty cool. My cousin was in the military. Maya felt a small sense of relief. At least some students weren't making negative assumptions about her. She finished packing her bag and started walking toward the exit. The parking lot was chaos with buses lining up and cars honking as students tried to find their rides home. Maya had arranged to walk to the public library, which was only about 10 blocks away, where she planned to do her homework before heading to her after-school commitment. As she walked through the neighborhood surrounding the school, Maya observed her new surroundings. The houses were large and well-maintained with perfectly manicured lawns and expensive cars in the driveways. It was definitely different from some of the base housing and smaller communities where she'd lived before. The library was quiet and welcoming, a stark contrast to the social complexities of high school. Maya found a table in the corner and spread out her textbooks. She worked through her assignments efficiently, her mind finally able to focus without the constant awareness of being the new person, the different person, the outsider. Around 5 o'clock, she packed up her books and walked 6 more blocks to Master Chen's karate studio. The familiar smell of the training mats and the sound of students practicing their forms immediately made her feel more at home than she'd felt all day. "Maya," Master Chen called out as she entered. "How was your first day at the new school?" "It was fine," she replied, though her tone suggested otherwise. Master Chen, who had been teaching martial arts for over 30 years, had developed an ability to read his students' emotions. He could see the tension in Maya's shoulders and the way she avoided making direct eye contact. "Sometimes new environments test our patience and inner strength," he said gently. "Would you like to work on forms today? Or would you prefer sparring? Practice?" "Forms, please," Maya answered. She needed the meditative aspect of karate today, the repetitive movements that would help clear her mind and center her thoughts. As she changed into her GI and tied her black belt around her waist, Maya felt the stress of the day beginning to fade. This was her sanctuary, the place where her abilities were recognized and respected, where her dedication and discipline had earned her a position of honor among her fellow students. She spent the next hour moving through complex kata, each technique precise and controlled. With every kick, punch, and block, she reminded herself of the values that karate had taught her: respect, perseverance, and quiet confidence. Walking home after practice, Maya reflected on her first day at Westfield High. It hadn't been easy, but it hadn't been the worst first day she'd experienced either. She knew it would take time to find her place in this new environment, but she also knew she had the inner strength to handle whatever challenges came her way. Tomorrow would be another day, another opportunity to show her classmates who she really was beyond their first impressions. By her third day at Westfield High, Maya had started to find her rhythm. She knew which hallways were less crowded, which bathroom stalls were usually available, and where to sit in each classroom to avoid unwanted attention. But she was also beginning to notice that someone had been watching her very carefully. Jessica Crawford stood at her locker every morning, surrounded by her usual group of friends. She was the kind of girl who seemed to have everything figured out: perfect blonde hair, designer clothes, and a confidence that commanded attention wherever she went. Maya had noticed Jessica during her first day, mainly because Jessica had made it pretty obvious that she was studying Maya right back. It started small. On Wednesday morning, Maya was walking to her chemistry class when Jessica stepped directly into her path. "Excuse me," Maya said politely, trying to step around her. "Oh, sorry," Jessica replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I didn't see you there." But she didn't move immediately, forcing Maya to squeeze past her and Jessica's friends who had formed a little wall in the hallway. Maya thought it was just an accident until the same thing happened again on Thursday. This time, Jessica was standing right by the water fountain that Maya always used between second and third period. When Maya approached, Jessica suddenly decided she needed a very long drink of water, taking her time while Maya waited patiently behind her. "You know," Jessica said, finally straightening up and turning around, "I don't think I've properly introduced myself. I'm Jessica. You're the new girl, right? Yes, I'm Maya. Nice to meet you. Maya, Jessica repeated like she was testing how the name sounded. That's interesting. Where are you from originally? We move around a lot because of my dad's job, Maya replied, not wanting to get into the details of military life with someone she'd just met. Oh, how exciting, Jessica said, but her tone suggested she found it anything but exciting. Well, I hope you're settling in okay. Westfield can be challenging for some people. There was something about the way Jessica said some people that made Maya's stomach tighten slightly. But before she could respond, the bell rang, and Jessica walked away with her friends, leaving Maya standing alone by the water fountain. The real trouble started on Friday during chemistry class. Maya had been assigned to work with Derek Williams on a lab experiment about chemical reactions. Derek was quiet and seemed genuinely nice, always willing to explain concepts when Maya had questions and never making her feel stupid for asking. They were measuring solutions and recording results when Maya noticed Jessica staring at them from across the room. Jessica's lab partner was trying to get her attention, but Jessica seemed more interested in watching Maya and Derek work together. So you're really good at this stuff, Derek said as Maya correctly calculated the molarity of their solution. Did you take advanced chemistry at your old school? Something like that, Maya replied, not mentioning that she'd actually been in accelerated programs at most of her previous schools. You're pretty good at this too, Derek smiled. Thanks. I've been thinking about maybe studying engineering in college, so I'm trying to really understand the basics. Their conversation was interrupted when Jessica appeared beside their lab table. Derek, she said, completely ignoring Maya's presence. Can you help me with our calculations? Riley has no idea what she's doing. Derek looked uncomfortable. We're kind of in the middle of our own experiment right now, Jess. Jessica's expression changed slightly. It'll just take a second. I'm sure Maya won't mind. Maya could see the awkward position Derek was in. It's fine, she said quietly. I can finish recording these numbers. But Jessica wasn't satisfied with that response. Actually, Maya, maybe you could help Riley instead. Derek and I have worked together before, so we have a system. The suggestion was clearly meant to separate Maya from Derek, and everyone at nearby tables could sense the tension. Maya looked at Derek, who seemed torn between wanting to be polite to both girls and not understanding what was really happening. That's okay, Maya said calmly. Derek and I are almost finished here. Jessica's smile became tighter. Well, aren't you just so helpful, she said, her voice carrying a sweetness that felt more like a threat. After class, Maya was putting her books in her backpack when she overheard Jessica talking to her friends in the hallway. Did you see how she was practically throwing herself at Derek during lab? Jessica's voice carried clearly through the open classroom door. I thought she seemed pretty normal, one of her friends replied. Trust me, I can tell. Girls like that always go after other people's boyfriends. It's like they can't help themselves. Maya felt her cheeks burn. Derek wasn't even Jessica's boyfriend. Everyone knew they had dated briefly last year but had broken up months ago. And Maya had certainly not been throwing herself at anyone. She'd simply been doing her chemistry homework. But Maya also understood what was really happening. She'd seen this dynamic before at other schools, though never directed so specifically at her. Jessica felt threatened, though Maya couldn't entirely understand why. Maybe it was because Maya had answered more questions correctly in class, or maybe it was something else entirely. The weekend gave Maya a break from the school social dynamics, but Monday brought new challenges. She arrived at her locker to find someone had stuck a piece of gum to her lock. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was clearly intentional. None of the other locks around hers had been touched. In English class, Maya discovered that someone had written, "Teacher's Pet" in pencil on her desk. Mrs. Patterson noticed it too and quietly handed Maya an eraser, giving her an apologetic look that suggested this wasn't the first time she'd seen this kind of behavior. During lunch, Maya sat at the same table as the previous week, but this time the other students seemed even more distant. She eventually realized why when she overheard part of their conversation. Jessica said she's really stuck up, like she acts like she's smarter than everyone else. Really? She seems okay to me. Well, Jessica's known everyone here since elementary school. She can usually tell about people. Maya ate her sandwich in silence, pretending not to hear. She'd dealt with rumors before, but it still hurt to know that people were forming opinions about her based on things that weren't true. The situation escalated on Tuesday when Maya found her locker had been opened and her books were scattered on the floor. Nothing was missing, but someone had clearly gone through her things. A few students walking by stopped to stare, and Maya could hear them, whispering as she knelt down to collect her belongings. That's so weird. Why would someone do that? Maybe she forgot to lock it properly, or maybe someone doesn't like her very much. Maya's hands were shaking slightly as she restacked her textbooks and put them back in her locker. She checked the lock twice to make sure it was secure, but she knew that if someone really wanted to get into it again, they probably could. That afternoon in chemistry, Derek seemed different. He was still polite, but he didn't chat as much as usual and he avoided making eye contact. When Maya asked him a question about their assignment, he answered briefly and then turned his attention back to his notebook. Maya couldn't help but wonder what Jessica had said to him, or what rumors were circulating that she didn't even know about. After school, Maya walked to the library as usual, but her concentration was shot. She found herself reading the same paragraph over and over without absorbing any of the information. Finally, she packed up her books and headed to karate practice early. Master Chen noticed her distraction immediately. "Your mind seems troubled. Today?" he observed as Maya changed into her training clothes. "Just school stuff," Maya replied, not wanting to burden him with the details. "In karate, we learn that external pressures can only affect us if we allow them to," Master Chen said gently. "But we also learn when it's appropriate to stand our ground." Maya nodded, understanding that her teacher was offering wisdom without prying into her personal business. She spent extra time that day working on defensive techniques, finding comfort in the precise movements and controlled power that her training provided. Walking home, Maya made a decision. She wouldn't let Jessica's behavior change who she was or how she acted at school. She would continue being polite, doing her work, and treating everyone with respect. But she would also be more aware of what was happening around her, and she would be ready to protect herself if the situation required it. The third week at Westfield High brought a whole new level of problems for Maya. What had started as awkward encounters and whispered rumors was now becoming something much more serious and organized. On Monday morning, Maya discovered that someone had taped a piece of paper to her locker that read, "Go back where you came from," in large, angry letters. Her hands trembled slightly as she peeled it off, quickly crumpling it up before anyone else could see. But she noticed a few students walking by had definitely seen it, and their expressions ranged from shock to uncomfortable silence. Maya tried to push the incident out of her mind, but during first period English, she found another note stuck inside her textbook. This one was worse. It contained ugly words about her appearance and her family that made her stomach turn. She quietly tore it up during class, but Mrs. Patterson noticed her distress. "Maya, could you stay after class for a moment?" Mrs. Patterson asked when the bell rang. Once the other students had filed out, Mrs. Patterson approached Maya's desk with concern in her eyes. "Is everything all right? You seem upset about something." Maya wanted to tell her teacher what was happening, but she'd learned from experience that adult intervention sometimes made social problems worse rather than better. "I'm fine, just adjusting to the new school." Mrs. Patterson didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. "Well, if you ever need someone to talk to, my door is always open." By Wednesday, the harassment had moved online. Maya discovered that someone had created a fake social media account using her name and posted embarrassing content that made her look bad. Students were sharing screenshots and making comments that reached far beyond Jessica's immediate friend group. The fake account posted things like, "I think I'm better than everyone at this school," and "These people are so beneath me." Maya knew. She had never said or thought anything like that, but proving it was nearly impossible. The damage was already done. During lunch that day, Maya sat alone. The students who had previously been neutral toward her now seemed to view her with suspicion or outright dislike. She could hear fragments of conversations from nearby tables. "Did you see what she posted online?" I can't believe she actually thinks that about us. My mom always said military kids have attitude problems. Maya ate her sandwich mechanically, trying to block out the voices. She pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to her mom. "How's everything going there, sweetheart?" Came the immediate reply. Maya started to type about the problems at school, then deleted the message. Her parents had enough to worry about with her dad deployed overseas. She couldn't add to their stress. "Fine, just busy with schoolwork," she typed back instead. Thursday brought a new low. Maya arrived at her locker to find that someone had poured something sticky and sweet inside it. Her textbooks were ruined, covered in what looked like maple syrup. The smell was overwhelming, and cleaning it out took her entire lunch period. The janitor, Mr. Rodriguez, helped her clean up the mess. He was kind and didn't ask too many questions, but Maya could see the sympathy in his eyes. This clearly wasn't the first time he'd seen this kind of behavior at the school. "You know," he said quietly as they worked, "sometimes these things get worse before they get better. But they usually do get better, especially for kids who keep their heads up and don't let others change who they are." Maya thanked him for his help, but inside she was starting to feel worn down. The constant stress of wondering what she'd find at her locker each day, what rumors would be spreading about her, and who would be giving her dirty looks in the hallways, was exhausting. In chemistry class, the situation with Derek had completely changed. Jessica had clearly gotten to him, because now he barely acknowledged Maya's presence. When Mr. Harrison assigned them to work together again, Derek asked if he could switch partners. "I think it would be better for my grade if I worked with someone else," he said, not meeting Maya's eyes. Maya felt a sharp stab of hurt. She and Derek had worked well together, and she thought they'd been developing a friendship. Now he was treating her like she had some kind of disease. Jessica, overhearing Derek's request, turned around with a satisfied smile. "That's probably for the best," she said loud enough for several nearby students to hear. "Some people are just too distracting in group work situations." The implication was clear, and Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment and anger, but she kept her voice calm and steady. "That's fine with me," she said quietly, even though inside she wanted to defend herself against the unfair accusations. Friday afternoon, Maya was walking to her car after school when she heard her name being called. She turned to see Jessica approaching with 3 of her friends. Maya's instincts immediately went on alert. "Maya, we need to talk," Jessica said, her voice carrying a false friendliness that didn't match her expression. "About what?" Maya replied, keeping her distance. "About your attitude problem," Jessica said, dropping the pretense of politeness. "You come into our school acting like you're better than everyone, stealing other people's friends, and then playing the victim when people don't like it." Maya felt a surge of anger, but her karate training helped her stay controlled. "I haven't done any of those things." "Right," Jessica said sarcastically. "That's why Derek can't stand working with you anymore. That's why people are talking about how stuck up you are. Face it, Maya, nobody wants you here." The words hit Maya harder than she wanted to admit, mainly because she'd started to wonder if they might be true. Was she somehow giving off the wrong impression? Had she done something to deserve this treatment? But then she remembered Master Chen's teachings about self-respect and inner strength. She knew who she was, and she knew she'd been nothing but polite and respectful to everyone at this school. "I'm sorry you feel that way," Maya said calmly, "but I have every right to be here, and I plan to stay." Jessica's expression darkened. "We'll see about that," she said before walking away with her friends. That evening at karate practice, Maya threw herself into her training with unusual intensity. Master Chen paired her up for sparring practice with one of the advanced students, and Maya's techniques were sharper and more focused than usual. "Your power is strong today," her sparring partner commented after a particularly well-executed combination. "But I can sense anger behind it." Maya paused, realizing he was right. She was using karate as an outlet for her frustration, which wasn't necessarily wrong, but it wasn't the mindful approach that Master Chen taught. After class, Master Chen asked Maya to stay behind. "I can see that something is troubling you," he said gently. In martial arts, we learn to face our challenges with both strength and wisdom. Sometimes that means standing firm, and sometimes it means choosing when and how to engage. Maya nodded, understanding that her teacher was preparing her for something, even though she hadn't told him the specifics of what was happening at school. Master Chen, she said carefully, what do you do when people try to make you feel like you don't belong somewhere? Master Chen was quiet for a long moment. True belonging comes from within, he finally said. Others can make you feel unwelcome, but they cannot determine your worth or your right to exist in any space. However, there are times when we must defend not just our physical selves, but our dignity and our peace of mind. Maya understood. Her teacher was telling her that while she should continue trying to handle the situation peacefully, there might come a time when she needed to take a stronger stand. Walking home that night, Maya made a decision. She would continue to be herself, kind, respectful, and focused on her education. But she would also be prepared for whatever Jessica and her friends might try next. She had skills and inner strength that they knew nothing about, and if they pushed her too far, they might be surprised by what they discovered. The weekend couldn't come soon enough, but Maya knew that Monday would bring new challenges. She was ready to face them. Monday morning started differently than usual. Maya noticed the change as soon as she walked through the school doors. Groups of students who normally ignored her were now openly staring and whispering. Some pointed in her direction before quickly looking away when she made eye contact. During first period, Maya discovered why. Someone had printed out screenshots of the fake social media posts and taped them to bathroom walls, bulletin boards, and even some classroom doors. The posts made her look terrible, with fake quotes about how she supposedly felt superior to everyone at Westfield High. Mrs. Patterson pulled Maya aside after English class. Maya, I've seen some disturbing things around school today. I want you to know that the administration is aware of what's happening and we're investigating. Maya felt a mix of relief and worry. She was glad someone in authority had noticed, but she also knew that official investigations sometimes made social situations more complicated. Thank you, Mrs. Patterson. I appreciate that. In the meantime, her teacher continued, I want you to know that you can come to me or any other teacher if you feel unsafe or need support. Maya nodded, but she could already imagine how Jessica would react if she found out that teachers were getting involved. The bullying would probably just become more subtle and harder to prove. By lunchtime, the tension had reached a new level. Maya sat alone at her usual table, but she could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on her. Conversations stopped when she passed by, and several students made it obvious they were talking about her. That's when she overheard Jessica's voice from a nearby table, speaking loudly enough that Maya was clearly meant to hear every word. I just think it's so sad when people come to a new place and immediately try to cause drama, Jessica was saying to her friends. Like we were all perfectly happy here before certain people showed up and started stirring up trouble. Maybe she'll transfer again soon, one of Jessica's friends replied. Military kids never stay in one place very long anyway. From what I hear, most schools are probably happy to see her go, Jessica continued. I mean, who wants to deal with that kind of attitude problem? Maya's hands clenched into fists under the table. Every word was designed to hurt, and Jessica was saying them loud enough for half the cafeteria to hear. Maya wanted to stand up and defend herself, to tell everyone the truth about what was really happening. But she also knew that confronting Jessica in public would only make things worse. Instead, Maya gathered her things and left the cafeteria early. She spent the rest of lunch period in the library, trying to focus on homework but finding it impossible to concentrate. The situation escalated during chemistry class. Maya had been assigned to work alone since Derek had requested a partner change, but she could handle the lab work by herself. She was carefully measuring chemicals when she noticed Jessica and her lab partner Riley having what looked like an intense conversation while glancing in Maya's direction. A few minutes later, Riley approached Maya's lab station. Hey Maya, she said, loud enough for nearby students to hear. Jessica wanted me to ask you something. Maya looked up from her beaker. What? She wants to know if you're planning to ruin anyone else's friendships while you're here, or if you're done causing problems. The question was so obviously meant to provoke a reaction that Maya almost laughed. Instead, she kept her voice calm and professional. I'm just here to do my schoolwork, Riley. That's all I've ever been trying to do. Right, Riley said with obvious skepticism. That's why Derek can't stand being around you anymore. That's why people are talking about how you act like you're too good for everyone. Maya felt her patience wearing thin, but she forced herself to stay composed. I think there might be some misunderstandings about— No misunderstanding, Riley interrupted. Jessica's been at this school since kindergarten. She knows how to spot troublemakers. Before Maya could respond, Mr. Harrison called the class to attention for the day's lesson. Riley returned to her seat with a satisfied smirk, leaving Maya to finish her lab work alone. After school, Maya was walking across the parking lot toward the public bus stop when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned to see Jessica approaching with 3 friends, including Riley and 2 boys Maya recognized from her history class. Maya? Jessica called out in a falsely sweet voice. We need to have a little chat. Maya stopped walking but didn't move closer to the group. About what? About your future here at Westfield High, Jessica said, her mask of politeness starting to slip. See, we've been thinking, and we don't really think you're a good fit for our school. That's not really your decision to make, Maya replied calmly, though her heart was starting to beat faster. One of the boys, a tall kid named Brandon, stepped forward. Actually, it kind of is. We've been here our whole lives. We know how things work around here. And you don't fit in, the other boy, Tyler, added. You're causing problems and making people uncomfortable. Maya looked around the parking lot. There were still plenty of students around, but they were all focused on getting to their cars or buses. No one seemed to be paying attention to what was happening near the back corner where Jessica had cornered her. I haven't caused any problems, Maya said firmly. I've been polite to everyone, I do my work, and I mind my own business. Jessica laughed, but there was no humor in it. Right. That's why you immediately started flirting with Derek even though everyone knows he's off limits. That's why you act like you're smarter than everyone in class. That's why you walk around here like you own the place. None of that is true, Maya said, her voice getting stronger. And even if it was, I have every right to be here. Do you, though? Brandon asked, moving closer. Because from where we're standing, it looks like you're just making everyone miserable. Maya took a step back, bumping into a parked car. The group had formed a loose circle around her, and she was starting to feel trapped. Look, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I don't want any trouble. I just want to finish high school and move on with my life. Well, maybe you should. Finish it somewhere else, Tyler suggested. I hear there are lots of other schools that might be more suitable for someone like you. The way he said someone like you made Maya's stomach clench. She'd heard that tone before, and she knew exactly what he meant. What's that supposed to mean? She asked, though she already knew the answer. Jessica stepped closer, her voice getting nastier. It means maybe you should go back to whatever neighborhood you came from and stop trying to fit in where you don't belong. Maya felt a surge of anger rise in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. Her karate training had taught her to recognize when a situation was escalating toward violence, and all her instincts were telling her that this confrontation was approaching a dangerous point. I'm going to go now, she said firmly, trying to step around the group. Brandon moved to block her path. Actually, I don't think we're done talking yet. We need to make sure you understand the situation, Riley added. Because apparently you're too thick to figure it out on your own. Maya's breathing deepened as she centered herself. She could feel her martial arts training kicking in, her body automatically shifting into a more balanced stance. The group around her seemed to sense the change in her energy, though they probably didn't understand what it meant. I understand perfectly, Maya said, her voice now carrying a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. You want me to leave because I'm different, and you're threatened by that difference. Jessica's face flushed with anger. Threatened? By you? That's hilarious. But Maya could see something else in Jessica's eyes now, a flicker of uncertainty. For the first time in weeks, Maya wasn't backing down or trying to appease them. She was standing her ground with a confidence they hadn't seen before. Yes, threatened, Maya repeated calmly. Because, deep down, you know that your reasons for not liking me have nothing to do with who I actually am. The tension in the parking lot was thick enough to cut with a knife. Maya could sense that something was about to happen, and she prepared herself mentally for whatever came next. The parking lot felt smaller than it actually was. Maya stood with her back against the car, watching as Jessica's group tightened their circle around her. She could see other students in the distance, but they were all focused on getting home. No one was paying attention to what was happening in this corner of the lot. You know what your problem is? Jessica said, stepping even closer. You think you're special. You think you can just walk into our school and take whatever you want. Maya's breathing remained steady, her feet automatically shifting into a more balanced position. Years of training had taught her to read body language and energy, and everything about this situation was screaming danger. I don't want to take anything from anyone, Maya said calmly. I just want to be left alone to do my schoolwork. Brandon laughed harshly. Right, that's why you were all over Derek in chemistry class. I was doing lab work, Maya replied, her voice getting firmer. Nothing more. Don't lie to us, Tyler said, moving to block another possible escape route. We all saw how you were acting. Getting all cozy with him, showing off how smart you think you are. Maya realized that no amount of reasoning was going to work here. These people had decided who they thought she was, and nothing she said would change their minds. But she also recognized something else. They were escalating the situation because they expected her to back down, to apologize, maybe even to cry. I'm done with this conversation, Maya said firmly, taking a step forward. I'm leaving now. No, you're not, Jessica said, putting her hand on Maya's shoulder and pushing her back against the car. We're not finished yet. That push changed everything. Maya felt the familiar calm that came over her during sparring practice, the mental state where time seemed to slow down and every movement became crystal clear. Her sensei had taught her that physical contact without permission was never acceptable, and that defending yourself was not just a right, but sometimes a responsibility. Don't touch me, Maya said quietly, but there was steel in her voice now. Jessica either didn't hear the warning or chose to ignore it. Or what? You'll run crying to Mommy and Daddy? Oh wait, Daddy's not even here, is he? The comment about her father hit Maya like a physical blow. Her dad was thousands of miles away serving his country, and Jessica was using that sacrifice as a weapon against her. Take that back, Maya said, her voice dangerously quiet. Make me, Jessica taunted, pushing Maya again, harder this time. Brandon stepped forward too, apparently thinking that two of them could intimidate Maya more effectively than one. Yeah, what are you going to do about it? When Brandon reached out to grab Maya's backpack, intending to throw it on the ground, Maya's training took over completely. In one smooth motion, she stepped to the side, grabbed his wrist, and used his own momentum to send him stumbling past her. The technique was so quick and precise that it took everyone, including Maya herself, a moment to process what had happened. Brandon looked up from where he'd ended up on his knees, his face a mixture of shock and embarrassment. What the hell? She pushed me, he said, scrambling to his feet, though everyone had clearly seen that Maya had barely touched him. Tyler, thinking his friend needed backup, lunged toward Maya with both hands outstretched, trying to grab her arms. This time, Maya was ready. She ducked under his reach, caught his wrist, and used a simple redirect technique that sent him spinning away from her and crashing into the side of a parked car. The sound of Tyler hitting the car was loud enough to attract attention from other students in the parking lot. A small crowd began to gather, sensing that something dramatic was happening. Jessica's face had gone pale. You can't just attack people like that. I didn't attack anyone, Maya said calmly, straightening her backpack. I defended myself when you and your friends decided to put your hands on me. Riley, who had been hanging back and letting the boys do the intimidating, suddenly felt brave enough to step forward. You think you're so tough, don't you? Before Maya could respond, Riley swung her hand toward Maya's face, clearly intending to slap her. Maya caught Riley's wrist effortlessly, holding it steady without applying any pressure. "I don't want to hurt you," Maya said quietly. "But I won't let you hurt me either." She released Riley's wrist and stepped back, creating space between herself and the group. By now, at least 20 students had gathered to watch, and Maya could hear them whispering among themselves. "Did you see how fast she moved? Where did she learn to do that? I think she knows martial arts or something." Jessica was looking around at the growing crowd, realizing that her plan to intimidate Maya in private had backfired spectacularly. Instead of looking like the victim, Jessica and her friends now looked like the aggressors who had been easily handled by someone they'd thought was helpless. "This isn't over," Jessica said, but her voice lacked the confidence it had carried just minutes earlier. "Yes, it is," Maya replied firmly. "It's been over for weeks. You just didn't realize it yet." Brandon, still nursing his bruised ego along with his scraped knees, made one last attempt to save face. "You got lucky," he muttered. Maya looked at him with something that might have been pity. "No, I got trained. There's a difference." Master Chen had always taught his students that the greatest victory in martial arts was the fight you didn't have to finish. Maya had used just enough force to protect herself and make her point, without seriously hurting anyone or escalating the situation beyond control. As the crowd began to disperse, Derek appeared at Maya's side. He looked embarrassed and conflicted. "Maya, I'm sorry about how I've been acting lately," he said quietly. "Jessica told me some things about you that I should have known weren't true." Maya studied his face for a moment. "What made you change your mind?" Seeing this, Derek said, gesturing toward where Jessica and her friends were walking away, clearly defeated. "And realizing that if you really were the person Jessica said you were, you would have handled the situation very differently." Maya nodded. "I appreciate that, Derek. But I hope you learned something about making judgments based on gossip instead of your own experience." Derek looked ashamed. "Yeah, I definitely learned that lesson." Over the next few days, word spread quickly throughout Westfield High about what had happened in the parking lot. But instead of making Maya more of an outsider, the incident had the opposite effect. Students who had been influenced by Jessica's rumors began to question what they'd been told. Maya found herself being approached by classmates who wanted to know where she'd learned to defend herself like that. Some were genuinely curious about martial arts, while others simply wanted to apologize for how they'd treated her based on false information. Mrs. Patterson pulled Maya aside on Thursday morning. "I heard about what happened in the parking lot," she said. "The administration has reviewed the security footage, and we want you to know that you acted appropriately in defending yourself." Maya felt a wave of relief. She'd been worried that using her martial arts skills, even in self-defense, might get her in trouble. "We're also taking disciplinary action against the students who initiated the confrontation," Mrs. Patterson continued. "This kind of behavior has no place at our school. Jessica and her friends received suspensions for harassment and intimidation. More importantly, their social influence at the school was significantly damaged. Other students had seen them as bullies rather than the popular leaders they'd thought themselves to be." By the following week, Maya's life at Westfield High had transformed completely. She still ate lunch at the same table, but now other students joined her. Some wanted to hear about her experiences at different schools. Others asked about martial arts, and a few just enjoyed having conversations with someone who treated them with genuine respect. Derek became a real friend, and their partnership in chemistry class was better than ever. He'd learned valuable lessons about thinking for himself instead of letting others influence his opinions. Maya also discovered that she wasn't the only student who had been targeted by Jessica's group. Several other kids came forward to share their own experiences, and Maya found herself naturally becoming someone others looked to for support and advice. Most importantly, Maya had learned something crucial about herself. She didn't need to change who she was to fit in somewhere. The right people would appreciate her for exactly who she was, and the wrong people's opinions didn't matter. When she called her parents that weekend, Maya finally told them about the challenges she'd faced and how she'd overcome them. "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself," her father said from thousands of miles away. But I'm even more proud that you tried to solve things peacefully first. Master Chen taught you well, her mother added. Both the physical techniques and the wisdom to use them correctly. Maya smiled, looking out her bedroom window at her new neighborhood. For the first time since arriving at Westfield High, she felt like she truly belonged there.